Cosby is headed for trial. Aaron Katersky has been following this from the very beginning. Good morning, Aaron Katersky.
Good morning. He's arrived for his second day of jury selection in Allegheny County in Pittsburgh. The trial is going to be held 300 miles away in the Philadelphia area, so the jurors that are selected are going to be brought across the state and put up in a hotel, sequestered for the 2-3 weeks of the trial, however long it lasts. And so far they've picked, about just a handful, 5 jurors picked so far. They need 12 plus 6 alternates.
Why don't they do it from Philadelphia? These people don't know Bill Cosby in this part of Pennsylvania?
Well, look, of course they do, and that was part of the, the whole argument is that the defense made to move the entire thing out of state, but they weren't going to do that, and so they're picking the jury somewhere else, where people may be a little less familiar, or maybe where the coverage hasn't been as intense, but the trial's still going to be staged near where Cosby lives and where the alleged sexual attack on Andrea Constand took place. But many of the jurors said they of course knew of the allegations. One guy said he hadn't really given it much thought, and one woman said, I have a life. She hadn't really thought much about
it. That's kind of where I am. You hear all this noise, and you kind of know something's going on, but as for the particulars, what is he being charged with?
He's being charged with sexual assault. It's a single count, and it involves an encounter in 2004 with Andrea Constand, a woman that he knew from Temple University. She worked there and came to his house one night and said she was plied with Quaaludes and with and alcohol and then assaulted. And the jury is going to hear, once this trial starts next month, from another woman who said the same thing happened to her. But the other 50 or so women who've said that Cosby did this to them are not going to be allowed to testify.
How long is this trial going to take?
It'll probably take at least 2 weeks for testimony. Cosby is not expected to take the stand, plus whatever deliberations. So the jurors are in for quite the commitment. And
then what if he's convicted? How long could he serve jail time for?
Well, it's a great question. I mean, whatever sentence could, in theory, I guess, be considered a life sentence. He's 79 years old, and this is somebody who's never been convicted of anything like this, so it may not be in for a terrible amount of jail time, but he's portrayed himself as sort of an unwell kind of guy, kind of hobbles into court, leans on his lawyer. He says he's hard of hearing, can't see very well, so it's not the portrait of the vivacious dad he played on television.
Yeah, he recently gave an interview to Michael Smerconish of CNN fame and of Sirius Radio. What was the thought process of him sitting down there?
Who knows?
Okay.
I think he wants to proclaim his innocence and do whatever he can to influence whatever jury is ultimately going to be chosen. But he said that he would not testify. He talked about racism being a potential factor in the charges against him, and proclaimed his innocence. The defense is prepared, McGraw, to cast Andrea Constand as a liar and question why she returned to Cosby's house with her family even after the attack that she said took place.
Is this one of the ones where they had a civil settlement, but somehow it was able to be broken?
That's right. They had a civil settlement, and during the course of the civil case, Cosby gave a deposition that ended up getting out, in which he admitted to securing prescriptions for Quaaludes and said that he wanted to give them to women with whom he wanted to have sex.
Aaron Katersky, thanks for checking in on a bizarre story on a bizarre week. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, McGraw.
You got it. 809, Big 550, KTRS. Could there be more news going on out there?
Oh, my goodness. Can we use just a little bit of good news?
The thing about Bill Cosby is that's one of those stories where you're like, wait a minute, what's the latest? It's been so much news.
It's just been
I couldn't have told you that it was only one woman who was coming up with these charges. So
I thought, to tell you the truth, it was going to be multiple.
Right. Yeah, no.
Out of all, he's been accused of by dozens.
It's that Michael Jackson story. It's that Caitlyn Jenner story where you're like, wait a minute, what? You're saying she's turning into a woman? Well, I thought that was a joke, right? You've just sort of, the news is so fast and so furious. That's why. But Bill Cosby, that's a giant. You don't get any bigger than Bill Cosby.
No, you don't. But
Yeah, no, it's a tragic story. We'll see how it all turns out. Harry's Razors.